judgment surrounding me. I sit and ponder, question and wonder who from my past has been haunting me. Try to open my eyes, but I keep seeing two of me. Type and delete all my feelings, I'm ready. It's 5 in the morning and
Honored delegates, ladies and gentlemen, we shall propose further cooperative efforts between all the nations in weather prediction and eventually in weather control. We shall propose, finally, a global systems of communication satellites linking the whole world in telegraph and telephone and radio and television. The day need not be far away when such a system will televise the proceedings of this body to every corner of the world for the benefit of peace.
It lays the predicate and the foundation for the development of a weather satellite that will permit man to determine the world's cloud layer and ultimately to control the weather, and he who controls the weather will control the world.
Alright. Oh, this video might go some funky places, but anyway, Vettel, he was in the news. Sebastian Vettel. Not for his retirement, for something else a while ago. And he was dubbed an environmental sinner, or perhaps he considers himself that, on account of preaching environmentalism while racing in F1. Now, he came under some criticism for this. I suppose I could roll the tape.
We've talked a lot, in fact, on most of the questions that we've dealt with about energy and the need for renewable energies. And here you are, you're a Formula One driver, which is one of the most gas-guzzling sports in the world.
Yeah, it's true. And
does that make you a hypocrite?
It does. It does. And you're right. You know, you're right when you laugh, because, I mean, there's questions I ask myself every day, and I'm not a saint.
He came under some criticism for this on account of, well, he's racing in F1. You don't really get to preach about the environment while racing F1. The optics just aren't good, no matter what the cars themselves are doing. Yeah, what the car's solitary carbon footprint is, that's not exactly what matters. What matters more is the whole logistical operation around the cars. Forget about moving the cars to and fro, is even getting the materials for the manufacturing of parts, which is a whole other situation that we don't talk about, quite frankly. No one's going to talk about it. I don't particularly care about it. I'm going to explain why as this video goes on. I found Seb's place in the media in this narrative unfortunate, I want to say, because, well, he strikes me as someone who perhaps hasn't done some sincere research or what have you, or just takes whatever is said on the television as the gospel. Mind you, I say that, but mind you, there is film Michio Kaku, popular TV scientist. Why am I calling him a TV scientist? All these TV scientists are on the cut, they're on the pay as far as I'm concerned, because none of them are actually, you know, you ask them, oh, can we manipulate the weather? This is after Michio Kaku has said it outright on TV that, well, it's coming. You ask them if, well, can you manipulate the weather? They say, well, about that, it's complicated, right? But it was casual to well, answer is there God or not. That was a very casual matter for them when that was all the rage, when they were setting up this atheist society. But anyway.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, they did not get into this discussion,
no.
though. But it is fascinating. I mean, lasers, really, to change the weather?
That's right. Well, as Mark Twain once famously said, everyone complains about the weather, but no one ever does anything about it. Well, instead of doing a rain dance, we physicists are firing trillion-watt lasers into the sky to actually precipitate rain clouds and actually bring down lightning bolts. This is potentially a game changer.
So why am I talking about Seb? Why do I consider him unfortunate and perhaps uninformed? Well, because things like the Enmod treaty exist, and this video is titled Vettel, the environmental sinner, the Enmod treaty, and you. I had to debate with myself whether to put Seb's whole name in there or what have you, because it's gonna draw a bit too much attention just having his name in there. I might even just make this Sebastian, the environmental sinner, just to just to muddy the waters a little bit more. But this is not his retirement video. I think, you know, someone's gonna come and oh, you're not even giving Seb his flowers, brother. This is not Seb's retirement video, so you know, idle yourself on that. I don't even know if he's gonna retire. He might find a drive, he might go Alpine, for all we know. So it's good that whatever I have in mind for quote unquote retirement videos is, you know, it relies on the driver actually being out of the sport. So until he's actually out of the sport, he's probably not getting a retirement video. And just because he's announced it doesn't actually mean he's going to be out the sport next season. Or heck, he might be back in 2 seasons time, for all we know. Anyway, so what is the Enmod treaty and why does it relate to you? I should probably make other videos on Operation Mockingbird and the military-industrial complex and other things. But anyway, so I run the clip of the dead presidents talking about controlling the weather to control the world at the start of this vid. Okay. Now, how do they plan on doing that, and what actually gave them the zeal to say this when cameras are rolling? So on very official platforms, what gave them the zeal to say this? Well, the Enmod Treaty was formed in 1976, I believe. And what this treaty is an environmental modifications treaty. Basically, this was the outlaw of military grade weather manipulations tech. I have to giggle because it's science fiction, right? Why did they draw up this treaty? How many countries are on this treaty? You can go Google that yourself. I'll have some pictures up here and there. Don't take anything I say as gospel, alright? Go research it yourself. But they drew up this treaty in response to Operation Popeye. Operation Popeye, I'm sure some people have heard about it, took place during the Vietnam War. And yeah, they tried to, I say tried to, it's obvious that they had a successful attempt despite whatever has come out in post with reporting. Likewise, some dates on some projects have changed, but I'm not gonna it's not the focus of this video, but it's interesting just what my eyes themselves are seeing, but I digress. So Operation Popeye, the US military during the Vietnam War attempted to weaponize the weather. My assumption is that they succeeded because Operation Popeye was born out of Project Storm Fury. Project Storm Fury started in 1962, went on until 1983, so they were still testing ways to modify hurricanes. That's what the project is. They were still testing ways to control hurricanes even after the Enmod Treaty had been drawn up. Right? And it was Project Storm Fury that provided the intellectual capital for Operation Popeye during the Vietnam War. And Project Storm Fury was born out of the first attempt to quote unquote control / manipulate hurricane weather, Project Cirrus, which was an actual collaboration with General Electric and the US Army in 1947. That experiment is noted as being successful. Now, why am I mentioning all of this? Well, I'm mentioning all of this because, well, aside from whatever patents you can go Google up and see, and, well, whatever people might have spoken on about HARP, right? But, okay, let's start with the patents. Let's start with some patents. Yes, there are patents. They are dated patents. They have better technology nowadays, but this is stuff that's known. Right, the patents is stuff that is publicly available and that they are willing to let people know about. Okay, because people aren't going to change it. Right? Even me knowing knowledge, it's not going to change anything. Even some other knowledge, some other patterns, it's not going to change anything. I mean, all you can do is perhaps utilize their technology for your own means. But anyway, a lot of people do that without knowing. But anyway, so there's the patterns, various weather manipulation patterns, geoengineering patterns. Bill Gates is in the news as buying some of these patterns. I have an idea as to which ones he might have bought, but that aside, it's neither here nor there. There's the ongoing public geoengineering projects. The Enmod thing just goes hand in hand with weather manipulation and geoengineering, by the way. So there's the ongoing public geoengineering projects, and you can Google those. You'll find a lot of them. Now, of course, some people will debunk it, saying, some of those are just, they dug a hole, right? They dug a big hole somewhere, or perhaps it's a mine or something. Some of the geoengineering projects are just that. Others are carbon scrubbing projects or what have you. No one's talking about them too loud. There's other problems. There are other legacy problems affecting the quote-unquote environment that have very little to do with carbon, such as whatever nuclear tests were done back in the day, like your Operation Fishbowls and sundry. There's other wilder things that are, and whatever other atolls they blew up with with their nuclear test sits. I don't know why they did these. It's pretty bizarre. Anyway, and their attempts to quickly excavate land in order to facilitate the building of underground military bunkers with nuclear bombs. They did all of these, right? That's on film. I could fetch the film, but that couldn't be asked. They're doing all of these projects. They've got HARP. The way to understand HARP is that whatever HARP can measure is what they have technology to control, right? And the Enmod Treaty, for those who are curious, the Enmod Treaty essentially includes all environmental modifications, right? They've even gone as far as space debris. You shall not drop comets on your neighbors. So the Enmod Treaty is quite ranging. And essentially whatever the Enmod Treaty covers, they have tech for. And they've probably got very smart ways to deliver this tech. I've seen how they deliver the cloud seeding tech. I'm not going to expound on that. Because people are not ready for it. You're really just better off finding that shit yourself. Because, people do have vids, offer time lapses and what have you, but you're better off finding that shit yourself. Essentially, this goes back to what the dead presidents were talking about with the satellite weather modification systems. And yes, there are existing patents of those available. They probably have better toys nowadays, and this video should actually be a 5th generational warfare video, an introduction to that, although this channel is not going to be touching on 5th generational warfare. That's for someone else to touch on. But if you want to know how it works, you have to look at things like the Enmod Treaty, how they actually deploy weather manipulation and geoengineering tech. I'm sure whoever was watching the Beijing opening Olympics, when that happened way back, not the Winter Olympics, the Summer Olympics, whenever that happened way back when, right? If you watch that on TV, I'm sure wherever you were, they must have had a standard international feed, but I'm sure that you would have heard mention of, they've seeded the clouds to make sure it doesn't rain here. Yeah, that was real. That's very old tech. You can actually buy that tech commercially. And a lot of the stuff that they talk about in regards to climate change and stuff is not actually as real as they say. Does the climate change? Yes, there's natural ebb and flow to the climate of the planet and its regions and what have you. Is man affecting the climate? If so, then man can affect it both ways. So they've taken that to stock the environmentalists don't actually want to note it, even though it's happening in real time around them. And they put out, the technocratic oligarchic apparatus, they put out all of this stuff. They put out all of these narratives, all of these half-truths and what have you, right? Because the world was supposed to already have ended in 2018, and these were the predictions back in the day, but we're still here. So the reason they put out all these narratives in regards to the climate change and what have you is that they need to sell assets for the future. When they bring in this whole WEF scheme of you will own nothing and be happy, the way they accomplish that is that they actually gate the technology via electronic means, right? That's how they achieve that. That's why you need a full, this is why they want a full electric grid. It's problematic for them that there are all of these analog cars out here that are 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years old, still driving around. It's problematic for them because now these cars are essentially untraceable in the fourth dimensional technocratic oligarchic apparatus that they're willing into fruition, right? There's the TOA exists right now as a 3D apparatus. Okay, it's 3D because how do I explain this? It exists in the home. It exists in the home, the city, and the nation. Fourth dimensional is the world, and that's when Musk and friends start colonizing Mars, right? They use all the energy of mankind to send some elite away team to Mars, and they start work over there. That's how that works. Don't know if I'm whistleblowing too much or whatever, but anyway, I wonder if it will even be Musk's generation that does that. But anyway, so yeah, in order to realize their globalist utopia, they need to remove people's autonomy, because people are too autonomous nowadays. There's a bit too much autonomy in the air. So they need to remove people's autonomy, and they do that by getting rid of the internal combustion engine, because it essentially frees you from the grid. You still need petroleum, of course, but other than that, aside from the modern cars, which will have their ECUs and the electronic trackers and what have you, the old cars that existed before that tech, well, aside from the phone that you carry around, you're essentially anonymous to them. So yeah, I'm making this video so that people are aware, those who are so interested in the esoteric, is that when you see these narratives of climate change and what have you, understand that yes, the climate changes, but it's not changing the way they state it is. It's not a catastrophe in the making. It's just a new measure of control. This is where they're coming in with the zero carbon thing and their carbon tax and all of this stuff. It's just another lever of control that is being implemented. And fifth generational warfare is all about controlling information and perception. And it's funny, I'm talking about that. I need to mention Hurricane Katrina, because I can't remember the name of whichever meteorologist I was following for that, but some meteorologists were indeed saying that, hey, this thing looks engineered. Doesn't look like a standard hurricane. It looks a bit engineered here. And I'm sure those vids have been memory holed, long gone now, or just buried beneath a whole raft of other shit that it's impossible to find again. But otherwise, there's stuff like that to note. Don't take my word for it, do your research as always. Some things are going to be harder to find than others, but I digress. So with all this in mind, I do feel sorry for folks like Sebastian Vettel and other folks who, well, lean heavily into this climate change thing, right? I'm not sure if they are selling the narrative or if they have been sold the narrative. At the end of the day, they're just a tool for another part of the apparatus to manifest itself into reality. So anyway, there's been a bit of an esoterica. There's been Vettel, the environmental sinner, the Enmod treaty, and you. Because of course this all relates to you. We are the ones who are not going to have ownership of New Tech if they get this thing off the ground. They've got all the research, they've got all the actual papers, and they'll tell us about that, well, 50 years later, I suppose. Freedom of information, woohoo. Anyway, that's the vid. Peace.
Hell breezy. Let me show you how to keep the dice rolling when you're doing that thing over there, homie. Hey, let's go! Cause I'm feeling like I'm running and I'm feeling like I gotta get away. Better know that I don't and I won't ever stop. Cause you know I gotta win every day. Go! See, you really wanna pop me. Go! Just know that you will never flop me. And I know that I gotta be a little cocky. Go! You ain't never gonna stop me. Every time I come, a nigga gotta set it, then I gotta go, and then I gotta get it, then I gotta blow, and then I gotta shut it. Any little thing a nigga think that he be doing, cause it doesn't matter, cause I'm gonna dead it. Then I'm gonna murder everything and anything about it. Boom, about a bing. I gotta do a lot of things to make it clearer to a couple niggas that I always win, and then I gotta get it again and again and again. And I be doing it to death, and now I move a little foul. Nigga better call a rap, and everybody know my style. Niggas know that I'm the best when it comes to doing this, and I be banging on my chest, and I bang in the east, and I banging in the west, and I kinda give you more, and I will never give you less. You will hear it in the street, and you can read it in the press. Do you really wanna know what's next? Let's go. See the way we on it, and we all up in the race, and you know we gotta go, not try to keep up with the pace, and we struggling and hustling and set it, and I get it, and we always gotta do it, take it to another place, gotta taste it, and I gotta grab it, and I gotta cut all through this traffic.